Jamila, sorry, let me remind you so that you can just put all in perspective now. We've seen so many advertorials and announcements in that regard. We're not terrorists. Talking about Boko Haram, some of them from the Department of Security. Isn't that what you're talking about?
That is what I'm talking about, but I want you to be the judge. How far is that reaching? Let us do a test, do a kind of survey.
Have you done a survey on that?
I have been doing myself. That's what I do every day. That's what I do for a living. That's what makes me a security expert, going around to analyze this. And that's where my life counts. A bomb that explodes at the airport or at my children's school is going to turn my life apart. So apart from the fact that I do that for a living, I have a duty to keep myself and my family and my loved one alive. So if you find out very well, everywhere where I have people, everywhere where I have concerns and interest, I've always been going there to do security analysis, do security, what the government, don't forget, I did not mark the government 0%, I gave them 10%.
That's a failure.
Well, it is a failure, and you be the judge with what is happening all over the places now. Is the fight, are we winning the fight against terrorism? Are we matching it, or are we losing it? I want you to be the judge. You know, 6 months ago, sorry, Mape, 6 months ago, we don't have 10 years old exploding.
Exactly, I was
bombs.
just about to come to that point, you know, that part. So the message we have been getting all across, if there's any message Nigerians have now, it's be vigilant. You know, have your eyes open and see, you know, we have been told if anybody leaves a bag here, if anybody leaves a box here, you don't know the whereabouts, you don't know where it came from, or, you know, raise an alarm, try and see if you can trace it and all of that. But nobody has said, if you see any 10-year-old girl looking around students, if you see any 10-year-old girl hawking granules, you should immediately become suspicious. You know, so these are some of the dimensions that it would seem that the terrorists are beginning to explore. I mean, it would seem that we should be getting ready for every and anything, and it would seem that we should hold our fellow human beings in immediate suspicion. I mean, who would suspect a minor, for instance?
Okay, if anybody that has gone through the terrorism awareness program that I'm running across public places now, for those who choose to adopt it and go through it, it's just about 40 minutes program, which can be run for more than 2,000 people at a time in a big hall, will know that you should suspect anything and everything. There is no crime in being over-suspicious when it comes to terrorism. It is better for me to over-suspect Kimberlyn and apologize, rather than for me to start picking up pieces of human bodies 5 minutes later. It's okay. At the airport, before you board any flight today, you are a suspect. That is why you have to take off your shoe, your belt, open your bag, face unnecessary delay. To enter any building now, they put metal detector on you, and it beeps even in response to the jewelry you're wearing. So it's okay to be over suspicious. Don't let us get that wrong. The bit where you want to say, well, we're suspecting everybody. Yes, suspect everybody. Search everybody. It's not okay. We need to train our security operatives on how to go about it. You should put respect into it. You should know how to apologize, and you should know how to communicate to people that, well, unfortunately, before we don't need to go through all the rigorous searching we're going through at the airport, but now we're doing that in order for a plane not to explode mid-air. So we need to go through that pain. It's a painful time. It's no longer business as usual.
That is in a very organized environment. I'm imagining an environment where you go for an event, or maybe you're just at a place where you would normally see, you know, hawkers, children carrying wares, selling them. All of a sudden, we have to be suspicious about these little children who are just ordinarily whom one should just patronize to encourage.
Don't forget that before terrorism, we've been fighting, the Lagos State Task Force has been arresting hawkers and everything because they were a security threat anyway. They are a security threat to themselves. Vehicle killed them, kidnappers picked them up, and now there is high tendency for a man or a 12 years old carrying a cooler with Coca-Cola mark on it. You don't know what's inside it. Do you understand? So the government, what we're asking the government to do now is to try and boost the awareness. We've contacted many of them, but at the same time, I don't want to appear as somebody who wants to make millions from an unfortunate situation. And it is time for the government, if Mr. President is listening, to draw a fine line between how much we have spent so far and what have we achieved. Can we achieve more strategically by spending less? Do we have the available some resources in the country that we're not tapping into now? What we have done so far and what we have on the table to do in the next 2-3 months, is it going to be fruitful?
One of the things you talked about was suspicion. You said you're talking about, generally what level of awareness people have in general. If you're traveling, when you see boxes left by artisans and what have you. What do you do in scenarios like that? If you're just not sure, I mean, a cart pusher passes you by, you're immediately scared. Should we really be afraid? Should we live in fear? Because
no, we shouldn't. The worst part of terrorism or any threat facing security of lives and property is fear. What the terrorists, armed robbers, kidnappers want to do is to create fear. And that fear kills even faster. You will hear that a bomb explode did not kill anybody, but a stampede that followed it after killed few people. I don't want us to spread the fear of terrorism. Don't get me wrong. But what I'm just trying to say is that when HIV came now, there are certain mentality in you, in your everyday life, that comes into effect every time you want to be injected in an hospital. Every time you want to barb your hair at the barbing salon, everybody. About 20-25 years ago, you don't have problem buying your own clipper when you're going to barbing salon. Today, one of the reasons why everybody wants to keep a hair clipper is just because of the fear of infection. So we should bring the same thing back to terrorism now. What do I, myself, yourself, what do I need to do? Bullet points of what we need to do every day, and we must get into our routine. We live by routine every day. You wake up in the morning, you use the bathroom, you leave the bathroom, you get your car ready, put your laptops in the bag, go to work, prepare what you want for lunch, plan your travel back home and everything. It is time for us to do the same thing, every individual, not government alone this time. But somebody needs to jar them. How do we train 160 million people on terrorism awareness? How do we go about that? How long will that take us? It's time for the government to start speaking to the right people on how to do this. Not doing that, whatever it is you are doing, there are stages. There are primary stage of terrorism, of counter-terrorism. We have failed there. There is secondary stage of dealing with of counter-terrorism. We have failed there. We're now in the tertiary stage. Now it is bad. The number of lives we're losing every day is almost equivalent to the number of girls that have been taken away, taken away somewhere in the forest. Well, if a country is losing almost 250 people every day all over the country as a result of one form of insecurity or the other, it calls for concern. So we should ask ourselves, we should start taking the right step in the right direction. The step that has been taken so far now, if we're still losing lives, we have taken a step in the wrong direction. And if we don't stop now and continue that way, I'm afraid you'll start suspecting your dog.
No, but that doesn't necessarily mean that, I mean, if an explosion goes off somewhere, does it mean that every other step we've taken has been wrong? That's the impression people get.
I'm not saying that the government have taken wrong steps. What I'm saying is that the step they have taken so far has not led to any result.
No, but do we know the steps they're taking? That's the thing.
Oh, well.
But again, we cannot say it hasn't led to any results because we have seen some tremendous
even yesterday
findings and as well as arrests made.
If the step has been right, you are a journalist of conscience. I'm sure you will have said it. You understand?
No, what I'm saying is yesterday,
Yeah.
Some with explosives were arrested and they prevented them from exploding.
Like this 10-year-old girl,
yeah,
strapped with explosives, being arrested.
Yeah, another question you need to ask. Don't forget that the suicide bomber too have minds. I can assure you, no matter what you put to the head of 5, 10 years old to go and explode a bomb, it's only about 2 of them that may end up exploding the bomb. 3 of them at that age, from my professional knowledge, will think twice. Even the adult suicide bombers too sometimes get there. If you remember the 7-7 in bomber in London, in UK, the first set exploded their bombs. The next set, after 2 weeks after that, were all arrested alive. Is that a coincidence? Some people don't want to die. It is time for us to be trained to know who suicide bomber. They have a telltale signal. Anybody doing anything for the first time have a telltale signal. A man who is going to die for the first time have their look. There are certain things they have done. We've checked this all over the world. It's the same thing. That is a CCTV of people who want to kill themselves, who want to explode bomb. We've checked in Asia, in America, in United Kingdom. We've checked what.
Tell us some of the signs.
Well, I can tell you one of them is that there is irritation, there is sweating, there is stirring, there is robotic movement, because the explosive that is going to cause massive damages is heavy. Dynamite is not a light substance. So it shows in the way they work. We have been able to analyze about 10 bullet points for a would-be female suicide bomber, and 11 for, 12 for male, 11 for females. I don't think we have enough time to go through that on this program, but I don't mind coming to do that for your staff.
But are all these signs the same? Because it wasn't picked up when that bomber was on the plane on his way to the States until he failed. He tried and failed to detonate it.
Okay, you're asking me a professional question. I will try to be as brief as possible. If you look at the movement of this particular bomber that you are talking about, Al-Mutalab, his own case is very unique. The way he traveled, where he's been to, I don't even want to believe that he picked all the particles of that bomb at the same spot. I want to believe that he picked things. He traveled within 11 days and crossed almost 7 countries. It's for a purpose, it's for a reason. And I want to believe that one of the reasons why it failed was that because it's not good enough. He is good as a suicide bomber, but it's not technically knowledgeable enough to put it together.
But part of what we read lately was that he had worn it for 2 weeks, and that contributed to why he couldn't detonate.
I personally don't want to believe that until I see an evidence to that effect. I've not seen that, probably because you guys are doing deeper investigation, but I'll take that on board now and I'll check.
Okay. But the thing about that is that this tweet that comes in, Babatola says, he says the army on the highways are not, he says they're not capable. How can you just look at faces and admit I'm a terrorist while searching? So, but you say they can actually see some signs and point certain things out by mere looking.
They can do that. I'm not saying that that will stop the terrorists. I'm not saying that they will be able to detect bombs that is in every vehicle. Have they been given the right training? It's another thing we need to look at. Have we designed a special training for checkpoints? How do you know a vehicle that has been laden with explosives?
Can you see that as a passenger when you're being looked at and searched?
That's why I'm saying that we need to do something. We shouldn't just start on the road. I think we should first go back to the port of entries. For instance, now if you ask me, how can we make our road safe? I will not only involve police or military checkpoint on the road. I first want to work with the member of National Union of Road Transport Workers. Give them certain 2 hours training on what you do to make our grand use safer. You understand? What is happening at the airport currently now is that you open your bag, they see everything inside. The people actually put their hands inside your bag to know what is in there. Can we replicate the same thing at almost every port? Do you understand? Can we look at a vehicle that is heavily laden and create a kind of surprise checkpoint? There are 2 things the criminals use against innocent people: the surprise element and the power of anonymity. we can use it against them too. That is counter-terrorism. When you are able to use the tactics of the terrorists against them, the tactics that they know how to use, and use it against them, you too can go undercover, you too can pull up a surprise checkpoint somewhere and do something in depth. It's going to be inconvenient, but that is part of the price we need to pay as a general public in order to deal with this problem.
Okay, Olatubosun Abolarinwa is a security consultant. Thank you for coming on today.
Thanks very much for your time today.
Okay, we've got another session on this matter in just a moment. Join us again.